Oh, there we go. Thank you very much, Garvin. That was really beautiful. You know, Vancouver, I think one thing that I really appreciate about working for Megaphone myself is that, you know, there's this kind of surface representation of Vancouver that happens that's very much at odds with kind of the real experience of what people experience in this city, and that idea of kind of turning popular convention or this sort of popular image of Vancouver on its head is something that I think we can really do to much delight and with kind of a great degree of subversion sometimes, and maybe not always subversion necessarily, but I think that Kris Cronk does that in his work for sure, and he's our last vendor who's going to be reading with us tonight, so he'll be sharing his work, and then we'll break to a brief Q&A with vendors, and then conclude with a reading from Mike Christie, just to finish just before 9, I think. But Kris Cronk, last but not least, started selling Megaphone seriously in spring 2012, just a couple of years ago, after spending many years panhandling in downtown Vancouver. And he's lived in many, many places across Canada, like other folks. He's lived in many cities, but now he calls Vancouver home. So please welcome Kris.
Hi guys, thanks for being here. You know, I get a phone call, you know, would you like to participate in a workshop about home? You know, the meaning of home, what home is to you, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, who worse to ask? You know, I was orphaned at 13, lived on the street, toughed it out my whole life, you know. You're asking me about home? But I said, I'll do it. I'll give it a try. And the analytical part of me thought I could dissect home, you know, the brain part of me, you know. My first introduction, and this is my attempt at writing about home. My first introduction to the concept of home began as my parents brought me to their home direct from the hospital, a dilapidated hovel nestled in a tiny village in southern Ontario. If home is a tangible thing, then by all standards, this would appear to be a poor beginning. To me, it was just a house with 4 walls, windows, a bunch of different rooms inside. I don't think my parents thought of it as a home. It is easy to build a house compared to the task of building a home, but like a house, a home needs material to erect a strong sanctuary of learning and security. Growing up, I had to rely on the Cleavers. Wally and the Beeve taught me, you know, what it was to have a home. As I grew older, it was the Brady Bunch. I grew to understand that home is a sanctuary that contains the things we need to build our own home when we're ready to. We share our family version of home. When we age, we need to have our own as we go out to expand the world we know, armed with the lessons learned during our childhood years. I realized quickly that most of what was taught to me didn't translate quite the way I had hoped. Home's a double-edged sword. If our compass has no true north, then we could end up filling our home with lies. This is when we can make a mistake of thinking daily beatings is a sign of home. A crack house can be to be a homie to one who doesn't know better. It doesn't make it any less a home to each individual. We adapt the best we can with what we have. So a house is a home. If a body is a temple, that would make a house. If a home is where the heart is, to feel comfortable in our own skin, is to say then, home is where you feel comfortable in your own skin. To say this then, home is where the heart is. And a house is a home where you store peace and contentment. Thank you. After I wrote that and I handed it in, I realized, you know, that was a pretty cold look at home. You know, I haven't been home in 23 years. I haven't seen my brother, my sister, any of my family. No contact with them. Never tried to make a home, always kept moving, didn't want one. I always felt my family deserted me when I was 14, and I didn't really, you know, I never had one. My grandmother wasn't ready to deal with a teenager. And as I went home after doing this workshop, sitting in my SRO at the hallway house, looking at my four walls, watching The Big Bang Theory and laughing out loud. And I just thought to myself, I must feel comfortable if I can sit here and watch this dumbass show and laugh like a lunatic and not care and feel comfortable where I'm at and happy that I'm here. A home isn't just a place where you can go and have a roof over your head. You have to be happy that you're there. And we're given houses and we're given jail cells to live in. And you can't be happy in a jail cell. Where I live now, I've been there for 2 years. Never had a home before. Hallway house showed me. With the 60-odd residents that are there, the unconditional love that is needed to have a home. I mean, there are people where I live I don't like. I don't even want to talk to them. But they're there and I can count on them. They're going to be there at the bathroom when I want it. You know? That's my home. And we're all challenged. And without them there, you know, I would be at one of these places where I don't want to be. And I'm so happy and grateful to be where I'm at. Where I'm at, we're secure. Anywhere else, we would be preyed upon. Hallway House has given me a home. My four walls aren't four walls. I watch a Big Bang Theory, and I remember when I was a young boy, after my bath on a Sunday night, sitting in front of the TV with my brother and sister, waiting for Walt Disney to come out. I laughing uncontrollably like I did the other day. Been a long time since I had a home. But laughing at those dumb shows in my room reminds me of those days when I was 7 years old. Sitting with my brother and sister, watching Walt Disney, Wizard of Oz, whatever dumbass thing it was, pretending we were the characters on the screen. I thought about home and I realized that I do have one. I have one at Hallway House. You know, they serve a meal every week, and it's what my grandmother always wanted me to sit down and have a meal. Sit down, eat, sit down, eat. They make me eat there. That's my home. And in the end, home didn't seem so cold, so distant. But home also has to do with your hometown, the things that are around you, the people you deal with when you go out into the world. And so I have a little story about that too. You know, I was selling the Megaphone seriously since 2012 at the corner of Seymour and Dunsmuir. I know a lot of the instructors at the schools around there, and then just recently I saw a tour going around the students, and they were English students from, there's a lot of classes there. And I heard that the tour guide giving information that just wasn't proper about panhandlers and street people. And I noticed them in front of 7-Eleven, and they looked like they were trying to talk to a panhandler, but the tour guide rushed them across the light, and when they got to me, I heard what he was saying, and I took offense to it. A common misconceptions of what panhandlers are. They're not all drug addicts. They're not all, you know, they don't get enough money from the government, and that they're dangerous, and that was very irresponsible. I heard many things along the way that just didn't coincide, because I started as a panhandler, and by people like Priscilla coming to me and talking to me and being there, and she transformed me, you know. So they're not just panhandlers. And so over a year and a half ago, I wrote a handbook called Pest, Preemptive Strike. It's about street awareness in the neighborhood, and I talked with the language instructors in the area about the need for their students to get a little something, a little more knowledge about the street. You know, they're dropped off down there, there's culture shock, they come in with preconceived things from aunts, uncles, whatever, and it can be hard for them. I talked to a particular instructor, and we agreed that we needed to start up a class. And that's when I started up Street Smarts 101. I teach a class in the afternoons, and it's about removing the us and them question about people that are going to be in the neighborhood. I'm trying to teach kids how to interact with panhandlers and homeless people on a human level, not an us and them level. I want them to be able to perceive other than, oh, or you know, be scared, they're all drug addicts. And the greatest path that we follow in life is the path to becoming a human being, and that's the path I try to teach them. I want them to know the potential that's there. To ignore it and to slough it off is ridiculous. I'm the poster child of what can be done with coffee and a smile. Just look at where I've come in 2 years, and I hope I don't have to point that out. There's hidden gems there just wanting your time. It might be a chunk of coal to you, but there's a diamond there waiting. Help them shine like a diamond. People treating me with dignity is a big part of how things started to change for me. One moment did it all. A woman who worked at Holt Renfrew backed my play against a co-worker when I was panhandling. Her co-worker said something mean, and she was like, "Don't mind her." She turned to me and said, "You never mind. She's just an angry old woman. You're going to be fine. Just keep your chin up." And that's all it took. If it hadn't been for the whole Renfrew woman telling me to pick myself up, I wouldn't have started selling Megaphone, and then having the courage to return to Nanaimo to make things right with my family. I stayed for a whole year to do that, and I got the kids back where they belonged, to their beautiful home. And then when I come back, I started selling Megaphone seriously. Everything good started happening. If I never teach another class of Street Smarts, that's fine. But I had the opportunity to try, and if I taught only one more class at 52, with the life I've had done what I wanted to do. And I'm just so glad that I can share with the people in my neighborhood, you know, and to draw them in, and to think of the people that I work with as family. And I'm just so thankful to have a home. And thank you.